Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astoro Shishimat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravijacharya Astoro Shishimat His Divine Grace Namai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulasi Devi Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So we're reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 20, text number 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yasa Sivam Susrava Arya Sangame. Yasa Sivam Susrava Arya Sangame. Yadrichaya chopa shrinoti te sakre. Yadrichaya chopa shrinoti te sakre. Katam gunagno viramed vinapasum. Katam gunagno viramed vinapasum. Sriyad yat pravavre guna sangrichaya. Sriyad yat pravavre guna sangrichaya. Yasa sivam susravarya sangame. Yadrichaya chopa shrinoti te sakre. Katam gunagno viramed vinapasum. Sriyaryat pravravre guna sangrichaya. Yasa sivam susravarya sangame. Yadrichaya chopa shrinoti te sakre. Katam gunagno viramed vinapasum. Sriyaryat pravrere guna sangrichaya. Yasa sivam susrava arya sangame. Yadrichaya chopa shrinoti te sakre. Katam gunagno viramed vinapasum. Sriyaryat pravavre guna sangrichaya. Yasa sivam susrava arya sangame. Yadrichaya chopa shranoti te sakre. Katam gunagno viramed vinapasum. Sriyaryat pravavre guna sangrichaya. Try. Yasa sivam susrava arya sangame. Yadrichaya chopa shrinoti te sakre. Katam gunagno viramed vinapasum. Sriyaryat pravavre guna sangrichaya. A word for word. Yasa, glorification. Sivam, all auspicious. Susrava, O highly glorified Lord. Arya Sangame, in the association of advanced devotees. Yadrichaya, somehow or other. Cha, also. Upashranoti, years. Te, your. Sakrit, even once. Katam, how. Gunagna, one who appreciates good qualities. Viramed, can cease. Vina, unless. Pasum, an animal. Sri, the goddess of fortune. Yat, which. Pravavre, accepted. Guna, your qualities. Sangraha, to receive. Ichchaya, with a desire. Translation. My dear glorified Lord, if one in the association of pure devotees hears even once the glories of your activities, he does not, unless he is nothing but an animal, give up the association of devotees. For no intelligent person would be so careless as to leave their association. The perfection of chanting and hearing about your glories was accepted even by the goddess of fortune, who desired to hear of your unlimited activities and transcendental glories. Purport. The association of devotees, Arya Sangama, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The association of devotees, Arya Sangama, is the most important factor in this world. The word Arya refers to those who are advanced spiritually. In the history of human race, the Aryan family is considered to be the most elevated community in the world because it adopts the Vedic civilization. The Aryan family is distributed all over the world and is known as Indo-Aryan. In prehistoric days, all of the members of the Aryan family followed the Vedic principle, and therefore they became spiritually advanced. The kings known as Raja Rishis were so perfectly educated as Kshatriyas, or protectors of the citizens, and so greatly advanced in spiritual life, that there was not a bit of trouble for the citizens. The glorification of the Supreme Lord can be very much appreciated by the Aryan family. Although there is no bar for others, the members of the Aryan family very quickly catch the essence of spiritual life. How is that we are finding it very easy to spread Krishna consciousness among the Europeans and Americans? History reports that the Americans and Europeans proved their capability when they were anxious to expand colonization, but at the present time, being contaminated by advancement of material science, their sons and grandsons are turning into reprobates. This is due to their having lost their original spiritual culture, which is Vedic civilization. Presently, these descendants of the Aryan family are taking this Krishna consciousness movement very seriously. Others who are associating with them and hearing the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra from the lips of the pure devotees are also becoming captivated by the transcendental vibration. Transcendental vibrations are very much effective when chanted among Aryans, but even though one does not belong to the Aryan family, he will become a Vaishnava simply by hearing the mantra, because the vibration has great influence over everyone. Maharaj Prithu points out that even the goddess of fortune, who is constant companion of Lord Narayan, specifically wanted to hear about the Lord's glories, and for the association of the gopis, who are pure devotees. The goddess of fortune, pure devotees, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, underwent severe austerities. The impersonalists may ask why one should bother chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra continually for so many years instead of stopping and trying for Kaivalya, liberation, or merging into the existence of the Lord. In answer, Maharaj Prithu maintains that the attraction of this chanting is so great that one cannot give up the process unless he is an animal. This is the case even if one comes in contact with his transcendental vibration by chance. Prithu Maharaj is very emphatic in this connection. Only an animal can give up the practice of chanting Hare Krishna. Those who are not animals but actually intelligent, advanced human civilized men cannot give up this practice of continually chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I'll read the verse again. It's a long verse, so spare me. My dear, highly glorified Lord, if one in the association of pure devotees hears even once the glories of your activities, he does not, unless he is nothing but an animal, give up the association of devotees. For no intelligent person would be so careless as to leave their association. The perfection of chanting and hearing about your glories was accepted even by the goddess of fortune, who desired to hear of your unlimited activities and transcendental glories. So a very wonderful long purport from Srila Prabhupada on a very important subject matter, chanting Hare Krishna. So there are many key points on this particular purport, and I'll go through them very systematically. One is the value of devotee association. Like being in the company of pure devotees is very crucial for spiritual growth. And hearing, about the glories of the Lord and of the devotees, what does it do? The result is that it encourages devotion and commitment to the general community or to the devotees. In the purports, 1:18-13, where in the first canto, Tulayam Lavanapi, Na Swargam Na Apnu Bhavam, Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya, Martainam Kim Utasisaha. So this is the value of a moment's association with a devotee of the Lord cannot be compared even to the value of attaining the heavenly planets or liberation from matter. What to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. So you cannot compare a moment's association with a pure devotee to anything material. That's not possible. Because the men, in this world, they are addicted to material happiness. Most people. And most people, when you ask them, what is the destination after this life? Like, we go to universities, and I called one young girl to me, and she came, and then so I told her, what's going to happen to you after you die? You're in college now, you're getting your qualification, you're going to get a job, you're going to marry, and then you're going to die. So where are you going to go to? So most people have this idea they'll go and enjoy further in the heavenly planets. So, but at some point, become frustrated with this material world, and then you'll hanker for something higher, liberation. But a pure devotee, he does not aspire for these things, for happiness, for liberation. He's just satisfied in glorifying the Lord. That's a pure devotee. He's just happy in glorifying the Lord. And Prabhupada, in that purport to 1:18-13, he gives a nice, he makes a nice point about the government servant. See, the government servant remains the same regardless of his location. Like sometimes we would work in the government service, we'd work at one station, but they would take us to another station, and we would work on that station, but we're still the government servant. You get it? So like that, a devotee has nothing to do with this material world, because he's exclusively engaged in the service of the Lord. The location doesn't make a difference. So if I'm going to another location, I'm doing the very same things. So A pure devotee, there's so many things to say, about a pure devotee. But somebody who's pure, you can feel the energy of a pure person. That verse from the third canto Srimad Bhagavatam, which is so often quoted, Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hirkana rasayana kata tajjosanadasu apavargavatmani shadaratir bhaktir anukramisyati. Very beautiful verse, talking about satam, in the association of pure devotees, the discussion of and the pastime and the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. It's very pleasing, because by cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation. Advanced. And thereafter is freed from attraction and becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service takes place. So, we have to associate with pure devotees. And in that purport, I broke it down into various subsections. The first point is pleasure in devotional discussions, cultivation of knowledge. So like when you're engaging in discussions about the pastimes of the Lord, it is satisfying to the ear and the heart. And this is a sign of genuine spiritual progress, when you feel satisfaction. And then cultivating knowledge, immersing oneself in devotional service, and you're becoming fixed on attraction on the Supreme Lord. And what is the role of association? That's the third point in the purport. When you break it down, it'll come to these type of points. What is the role of association? What do you think it is? To make real advancement in spiritual life, you have to have association. And there in the text itself, Prithu Maharaj is saying that if you leave the association of devotees, what are you considered as? An animal. One is considered an animal if you leave the association of devotees, give up the chanting of Hare Krishna. He's an animal. Like Prabhupada, it was in some discussion with devotees, he was saying, one has to chant 16 rounds. And he said, if you can't chant 16 rounds, then you're an animal. Now these are like hard statements, difficult to digest. Sisi Radha Radhanath ki jai. But at the same time, to make spiritual advancement, you can't associate with everybody. You must associate with like-minded people, devotees, who help you to foster a deep understanding of the Lord's activities. Then you have limitations of theoretical knowledge, because sometimes we just study the scriptures independently without the assistance of and guidance from devotees. Then your advancement is limited and it's minimal. And at the same time, theoretical understanding alone is insufficient. One needs that, what you call, experiential experience. That knowledge that comes from association. So that type of association we should grab. The fifth point is personal understanding of the divine. Like many people perceive the absolute truth as impersonal. Why? Because due to a lack of association. See, if you don't associate with people, naturally you are impersonal. But when you associate with people, then you'll naturally lean on to, or it'll lead you to personal realization. The sixth point is fostering devotion. It fosters real devotion can be only be directed towards a personal entity. Not an abstract concept. We have an abstract concept, like yesterday Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj was saying, about Kushakrata Prabhu. Some people just have this idea, God is great, like that. So that understanding they have only, just like an abstract concept. Then fame, firm faith and attraction. That's the other point in the verse and the purport. As one develops firm faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the attraction to both the Lord and fellow devotees deepen. See, as you become more faithful and you get deeper, then your relationship with devotees also deepens simultaneously. So this is a sign of attraction, a sign of spiritual progress. And the ninth one is service as path to perfection. So when you engage in devotional service, that leads you to perfection in your spiritual practice. So the more one associates with devotees, the closer you come to realizing their ultimate spiritual nature. So the more you associate, but with like-minded people. And you must associate with people who have affection for you also. Otherwise you would not learn. It's a little difficult. Isn't it? Like-minded. So then, we spoke about those people who leaves the association of devotees are considered pasum. What that means? Animals, yeah. Then in the purport there's talk about the historical significance of the Aryan family. This is a word that I heard when I was very young, about Aryans. Because the Aryan family is associated with Vedic civilization, according to the purport. And they considered to be spiritually advanced. And there in the purport, Prabhupada is saying that these people were all over the world, Aryan people were all over the world. Therefore, people take to Krishna consciousness even from other backgrounds. Because they were practicing this down, it was coming down in their lineage, in their lines. I read in another purport, Prabhupada said, the word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life and have a civilization based on spiritual realization. Aryan. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 33, Text 7, there's also about the word Aryan is used. And the translation is, of how glorious are they, those tongues are chanting your holy name. How glorious are they? Even if we're born in a family of dog-eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. So the Aryan family, the people coming down in the Aryan line, they have already executed, austerities. They have good manners. And to be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, they must have bathed in all the holy places of pilgrimage, every way, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. So, So we can see, and you can see the importance of glorification of chanting, preparation of and purification, like studying the Vedic scripts, chanting as a form of elevation, how it can elevate you. When we discuss this text, misconception addressed, authenticity of practice. It emphasized the importance, intent behind chanting. And chanting is a great science itself. It's a great science. And then talking about, in the purport, Prabhupada is talking about Haridas Thakur, who despite being born in a Muslim family, took seriously to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. So different things. And if you chant, but one important point, immediate purification takes place when one chants offenselessly, without offense. There's so many, and the next point was its transcendence above rituals. Chanting is above all this ritualistic processes. Bathing in holy places, there's no need to do all that. So there's so many things can be said. But in the modern text, you see now, the challenges. Although, there were Aryan families throughout the world, but we see the challenges people face due to materialism. People are becoming more materialistic. But still, however, they're becoming receptive to Krishna consciousness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 3rd canto, chapter 29, text 18, I'll read the translation and we can just discuss a little bit about that. A devotee should always try to hear about spiritual matters and should always utilize his time in chanting the holy name of the Lord. His behavior should always be straightforward and simple. And although he is not envious, but friendly to everyone, he should avoid the company of persons who are not spiritually advanced. So our association is very important. We have innocent people coming and they're hearing about Krishna, then we can give them Krishna consciousness. We can give them our association. So that's there. And then the Gita explains that we are meant to do that because they are innocent people. But people who are too materialistic, then we have to be cautious in our dealings with them. And in that purport, Prabhupada makes so many nice points. Spiritual advancement requires guidance from genuine sources. Therefore, we should always get our knowledge from authentic sources. Quite often we are asked to speak, and I personally go to many Hindu temples and talk to them. Ask them, how many of you read Bhagavad Gita? Good question, eh? You read Bhagavad Gita? So, yes, they'll say, little bit, I don't understand, So reading and authentic sources of knowledge and hearing from authorized figures, not just anybody, acharyas, teachers who can assimilate the spiritual teachings. Anybody can read these books, but to assimilate this knowledge and present it, that's a challenge. That assimilation part is very important. Control and discipline, like when we read this verse itself, the regulative principle, living simply, avoiding of excess of food, possessions, and unnecessary conversations. Like people ask you, what you cooked? Where are you going? Is that necessary? If I tell you I'm going to the moon, what will you say? Huh? Come with me. But remember, you'll get burnt because the moon is above the sun. You know that? The moon is above the sun. You'll get burnt. You can come, but you'll get bent. The other thing, people can't go to the moon. Even in India now, they're saying people are going to the moon. But they're really not going to the moon. Yeah, the qualities of a devotee. His simplicity. And then Prabhupada in the purport points out, from the qualifications of a devotee. Humility, tolerance, simplicity. Like devotees, we don't possess much. I live off my bag, but now I got a cupboard. But for 2 years I've been living off my bag. I just have a bag there, just go open my bag, put the things, take it out. So it's very little possession. It's very simple. Chanting and devotional practice, we have to chant and we have to avoid negative associations. We should try as far as possible. And Prabhupada pointed out in that purport, the difference between an Aryan and a non-Aryan is that an Aryan is like a Sura, like a demigod, and a non-Aryan is a demon. Asura. And selfless devotional service. We should be engaging in devotional service in a selfless way. This is what Prithu Maharaj is emphasizing. Association. A devotee should act, without self-interest or diplomacy. And that diplomacy is not a good quality. Unless you can use it if you're advanced. But if you're not advanced, you don't be diplomatic. You have to be selfless and focused on the divine mission. And true devotion involves putting the welfare of others and the divine mission above your personal desires. People want personal recognition. Some people say, okay, I'll give you 200,000, put my name there that I gave so much money. Isn't it? You get this type of thing? No, you don't, not true, eh? Happens. Like once somebody, anyway, I don't want to say it, but this happens. We have motives, different motives, ulterior motives. And these are not good for a devotee, having ulterior motives. Like once one very senior Vaishnav, Gaudiya Vaishnav, he came to see Prabhupada, and another devotee was singing a very deep song, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. And Srila Prabhupada, he listened and listened. And the other senior Vaishnav was saying, Jai Gurudev, Jai Prabhupada. And after there was a pause, then the senior devotee, the senior Vaishnav Gaudiya Vaishnav was speaking. He said to Prabhupada, and I'll read it, referring to Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they should be told that they should never get motivated by their own self-interest. He said, they should make your mission successful. So that is what devotees are meant to do. So Srila Prabhupada, he turned his head slowly because he was quite ill that time, and looking over the devotees as they gathered even more closely to him, then he slowly lifted his hand as if to call them for, to attention. And he said, do not fight amongst yourselves. I given direction in my books. Then he lowered his hand. So all these directions are given in the books, in the scriptures, but ulterior motives do crop up from time to time. Like Srila Prabhupada had one disciple whose name is not mentioned, but the devotee was narrating this, said how the disciple had some ulterior motives. Because we're not meant to surpass the Guru, even if we are more advanced than the Guru, which most likely will be not. It'll be like manufactured in your factory of your brain. So that may not be the case. So this devotee was saying that Prabhupada pointed out to him on many occasions, to Nandakumar, that all my disciples are praying for me to get well, except for one person. This person is praying for my death so he can take over. So this is you have ulterior motives. And then, and other things, he wanted to take over the world, basically. And therefore Prabhupada at a point, he disbanded the GBC and said only the temple presidents are in charge. So these things do happen, how often do you you may think, how sinful this person is. But if you have to examine yourself, then even you think of sometime, hey, I hope that that enemy of mine's die. That's true. Isn't it? So it's in all of us. So we may have this ulterior motive. And this devotee thought, anyway, there's more to it. Then there was a devotee singing Bharat Raj, and Prabhupada liked Bharat Raj and Jamuna singing because they sang so beautifully, and he would listen to them. But as this person was singing, everybody was seated on the floor, but he was sitting on a chair. And sometimes a singer, he breaks a note. Sometimes he breaks the note. So this person is nudging that floor and saying, laughing. You made fun of a mistake. So that's not good. And then this devotee, Nandakumar, thinking, either I kill this person or let the others know. But then they felt, well, I can't do the first one. The second one, he has such popularity and so much power, it'll mean nothing, so he left. And just after that, Prabhupada had passed away. So we may have, we have to be very, very careful that we don't try to surpass the spiritual master. I think Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj was bringing it out yesterday, that we, the number one devotee is our Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement. We have to be straightforward, honest, as we said, in our dealings. We should not strategize things, for personal advantage. Like we may preach to somebody with the idea of, extracting some of his money. But if the money is coming to Krishna, that's good. We take the money and we give it to Krishna. So we should be focused on the mission, and we should avoid these negative influences. So many things we could talk about. But specifically the chanting of the Hare Krishna, the chanting of Hare Krishna, the vibration, it has a profound effect of those people coming from the Aryan lineage. But as we said, it can, others can also be influenced. Even now, we have to be all inclusive. In our preaching, we have to be inclusive, not exclusive. Then the other point that was brought about was, on the purport, was the goddess of fortune. Inspiration from the goddess of fortune. Because she also desired to hear the Lord's glories. Illustrating the appeal of devotion. So she performed much more austerities. She performed so much austerities. But there's a nice discussion, I thought, which we could talk about, was in the ninth chapter of the Madhya Leela in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Lakshmi Devi. Although she's heard so much the glories of the Lord, she was desiring to enter the Ras Leela pastimes. She wanted to have that association with Krishna as in Goloka Vrindavan. But she couldn't. despite performing austerities, despite hearing the glories of Krishna. So hearing the glories of Krishna, like we're talking now, it's very nice, and that's what the verse recommends. But the attention we're hearing in, the rapt attention we're hearing in, has a difference, makes a difference. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in South India, and he was having this discussion with Venkata Bhatta. And they were kind of like having this good association, and he was a follower of Lakshmi and Narayan. You know Lakshmi and Narayan? You all know? Lakshmi is the consort of Narayan. So that's Krishna, but in another feature. So then Lord Chaitanya started joking with him, telling him, how is it, I'll just read this. Your worshipful goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always remain on the chest of Narayan, and she's certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. And then Lord Chaitanya said, but however, my Lord, the cowherd boy, who's engaged in tending the cows, why is that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? It's a nice question, why? Why does she want to associate with a cowherd boy? Because she's opulent, got nice earrings, bangles, everything, all these different things in her hand, and look very beautiful. Why would she want to associate? Does it break the chastity? So Venkata Bhatta refutes that. He said, because they are one and the same. So the chastity is not broken, because Narayan is also Krishna. So the chastity is not broken. But there's an interesting discussion, but which we can't go through. We can talk about it some other time. But Venkata Bhatta, he said, Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastime of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. It's more sweeter. Since Krishna and Narayan are the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna does not break her vow of chastity. So like this, it goes on, and there's many, many points and deep points which it's not possible to discuss. But then they come to a point why couldn't Lakshmi Devi enter the Ras Leela? The pastime, because Krishna has many cowherd girlfriends. And that's higher. Because people don't understand it, they think that's immoral, or it's not acceptable in society. But what's highest in the spiritual world, the opposite is in the material world. So that's the highest in the spiritual world, but lowest in the material world. Just like if I'm married and I have relationship with somebody else apart from my wife, that's not moral. That's not nice. Isn't it? But it's the opposite in the spiritual world. For something to exist here, it must exist there. Get it? So it's more relishable. The sportive nature, But why couldn't she enter? But then, the answer, the Lord replied, Lord Krishna has a special characteristic. He attracts everyone's heart with the mellow of his personal conjugal love. And goes on to explain in depth about love in the spiritual world. But then why couldn't she enter the Ras Leela? But then we have like the authorities of the Vedic knowledge, who are known as Shruti Ganas. They worship Lord Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis, and they followed in their footsteps. So by following in their footsteps, they could associate with Lord Krishna in the pastimes of the Ras Leela. They could enter. But how is it Lakshmi, is such an exalted person, couldn't? Because these people were following in the footsteps. They were following in the footsteps. They were associating with more advanced devotees. That's what the verse is about today. With more advanced devotees, they were associating, so they could enter. But Lakshmi Devi couldn't. One, she didn't want to, follow in the footsteps of the cowherd girls. In cowherd girls, they make cow dung patties and all, They take cow dung and they make patties. So Lakshmi won't do that because she's like a queen. Isn't it? So because she couldn't, because she didn't want to follow in the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan. So this is what we have to follow in the footsteps of the acharyas like Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas to enter into these leelas or these pastimes. And this is possible by the chanting of Hare Krishna. Firstly, she didn't want to give up her opulence. Secondly, you have to give up your body. You have to take birth in a cowherd family. You have to make cow dung patties. You have to herd the cows and milk the cows and do all these things. She couldn't. She performed a lot of austerities. And even up to this day in Vrindavan, when you go across the Yamuna, she is there following these austerities. She is praying to the devotees to give them their mercy, that one day she'll be able to enter this Ras Leela. She's still there, Lakshmi Devi. So this is very wonderful. It's very wonderful. Hearing the pastimes of Krishna, and we see this from this example. It's actually 8:30 now, but we started 10 minutes late, so I still have 10 minutes, right? So we can take some questions. The devotees are walking out, but yeah. So that is about the austerities, the attraction for the chanting, and the continuous, according to the purport, the continuous chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is presented as irresistibly attractive. It's very attractive, the Hare Krishna mantra. And the people who cannot take to this chanting of Hare Krishna, we said, are animals or pasum. And a very important point of, mainly I was reading this morning about chanting, and I'll just read this, which is so important for devotees and others. By service to the holy name, we do not mean just chanting the name. It includes other duties. By serving the holy name with body, mind, and soul, the direction of that service spontaneously manifests in the chanter's heart, like the sun in the clear sky. What is the nature of the holy name? Eventually, all these realizations automatically appear in the heart of one who chants the holy name. And listen to this very carefully, and it applies particularly to devotees. The true nature of Harinam is revealed through listening, to reading, and studying Shastra. So the effect of chanting Hare Krishna is based on this. It is unnecessary to write anything further on this subject. All these things will be revealed to you through continual chanting. This is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then he says, without Shravan, there is no Kirtan. So without hearing, there's no glorification. First Shravan, then Kirtan. First you hear, then glorification. Then it says, then he said, the name of the Lord and the Lord himself, oh sorry, I forgot one part. Unless accompanied by Shravan, any attempt to perform kirtan, listen to this very carefully, must be material. Got it? Got it? Is material. Repeated hearing gives rise to kirtan and smaran. Because when you do this hearing, it gives rise to glorification and then remembrance. Because you have to have remembrance of God. Because, if it, I find this sometimes people take the mic, they want to sing, and they're waiting to sing, and, they want to. There's so much like this happens. Because people want to hear their own voice. But it's not on a very high level. It's not on that pure stage. You must be asked to sing. You get it? So repeated hearing gives rise to kirtan and smaran. By hearing kirtan, one begins to perform kirtan. And from performing kirtan, smaranam of Harikatha awakens. So it increases, awakens. The name of the Lord and the Lord himself are not two separate entities, but one. When the sound of the holy name passes over the lips, the conditioned sense of hearing and the conditioned consciousness initially processes the sound as if it were material, and that is how it is perceived. As a result, only the external ear hears it. Since the other senses and the mind, which is the collector, listen to this very carefully, of sensory experience, are envious of the ear, which they consider to be an equal partner, the result is that such chanting does not affect the cleansing of anarthas. So the unwanted things are not coming out of the heart. So chanting is a great science. So it's a very great science. We do not have the capacity even to theoretically know that the name and the Lord of the name are one. Yet just as piercing the ear is one of the Vedic rites for a young child, when our spiritual ear has been pierced, now listen to this carefully, when the spiritual ear is being pierced by the holy name, the other senses give up their envy of the auditory sense, meaning the ear. They no longer quibble with the ear, which can alone perceive transcendental sound. Then the flood of prema pours forth from all the spiritual senses and cleans away the contaminants of opposition and malice. Thereafter, the Lord's beautiful form, qualities, associates, and pastime are revealed in the name himself and experienced by the chanter as something quite distinct from the previous experiences in the mundane world. Then the kinds of worries and distractions of the mind that are typical of the conditioned living being cannot remain. So this is a very great science, chanting Hare Krishna. It goes deep into the heart, but it may stop by the ear. It's not going in. And when it gets into the heart, then prema or love comes, and your experience of Krishna takes place just by chanting Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here. Some comments. I stopped at the right time. Any comments, questions? Anybody will ask anything? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.